Soulsurfing Episode 3. So schön, dass du wieder mit dabei bist und gleich dieser wunderbaren Unterhaltung lauschen wirst. Ja, zugegebenermaßen war ich wirklich ganz schön nervös am Anfang, als ich Riccardo Vitellone, aka Roaman, gegenüber saß in diesem Interview, weil ich einfach dem Roaman schon länger zuhöre, seiner Musik zuhöre, auch dem, was er auf Instagram zu sagen und zu teilen hat. Und das inspiriert mich einfach wahnsinnig und deshalb habe ich ihn gefragt, ob er zu mir in den Podcast kommen möchte. Wir wechseln also gleich ins Englische und trotz mega Husten und kratziger Stimme, die ich während des Gesprächs hatte ich wirklich auch so oft auch Gänsehaut beim Zuhören. Also legen wir los und hörst dir einfach selber an. Das ist eine Folge wirklich zum Eintauchen. Das siehst du auch an der Länge dieses Podcasts dieses Mal. Ja, wie du deinen inneren kreativen Anteil nähern kannst und ein Leben führen kannst, das Feuer in dir entfacht. Darüber spreche ich mit Roaman in dieser Episode. Ganz viel Spaß und Vergnügen und Inspiration beim Zuhören. Yeah, hi and welcome to episode 3 of the Soulsurfing podcast. And I'm really happy and excited to have a guest on the show that I listen to for a while now, and the word listen you will be explained soon. Welcome Roaman on this Soulsurfing podcast show this time.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really happy. You are where at the moment? Maybe you can share a little bit of your current life and what are you doing at the moment?
Sure. So at the moment, I'm sitting on the floor in my apartment in Ibiza. I moved here very spontaneously and unexpectedly 4 months ago, and it's been wonderful, wonderful chapter since. And yeah, it's just a beautiful day, and we're about to have a chat.
Yes, cool. Well, the only thing we share at the moment is that I'm sitting on the floor too. Other than that, my scenery is totally different here in the mountains with a lot of snow, actually having a cold. Maybe you hear it in my voice, but yeah, it's fun to find some commonalities maybe as well. Let's see, let's find out. So I would like to explain a little bit why I thought of you was one of the first people when I thought about, well, I'm doing a podcast. Oh, how interesting. I'll name it Soulsurfing. Okay, let's let's see. And who do I want to talk with actually? And now this is episode number 3. So I've had one with myself, one with a dear friend of mine that I'm working with for 2 years now. And now you're number 3. So
Wow.
you're a person that inspired me a lot in the last years, actually, since I learned about you in a podcast together with Jacob Horvath. You did an interview with him. I guess you met in Costa Rica.
Yeah, we lived in the same community in Santa Teresa. We spent a few months together there. Yeah.
And you also shared a song there called Stay Open to Life, and you shared the story about the song. And this was something that touched me especially, but also everything you pretty much shared about the unfolding of your path, how to say. And for our Austrian listeners, Jakob Horvath is also a coach peer, I would say. I'm following, and we like to sharing some comments from time to time because we have similar topics we are interested in. So a big shout out to Jacob and his work also, and his being, and also his podcast, which I love to listen to. And probably without him, we wouldn't be sitting here chatting together. So big props to you over Jacob. And what inspires me when I follow you, and obviously everything I see about you is only my interpretation and my perception because I don't know you. We have never met in person, so you share something, and it lands somehow here on my side of the screen, and it opens up some inner doors and some thoughts. And what I would like to dive into with you is about your unfolding of your artistry. Is that an English word?
Artistry,
Sometimes
yeah.
you have to help me with some
Yeah.
vocabulary and the creativity, because as I understood the way you started from school into your studies, it wasn't something that was part of your life in your early childhood or something, that like making music or so,
No,
or
no, it
writing
wasn't.
songs.
No, no, it wasn't. I started teaching myself how to play guitar when I was 19. I never had dreams of being a musician. Growing up, I was obsessed with basketball. Basketball was
Mhm.
the big obsession before I discovered music. So I never wrote songs. There were not instruments in the house. My mom has a beautiful voice and her sister, so she would be, singing around the house. And I was raised in the church in Italy, in Rome. I was born and raised in Rome.
Mhm.
So we would sing on Sunday, but there was never, a vision or a dream or a plan. I started teaching myself how to play guitar when I was 19.
Mhm.
Honestly, out of a mix of curiosity and boredom. It was summer, and
Mhm.
I didn't really have much to do. I was 19. I asked my friend, "Can I borrow your guitar?" And I taught myself, and I really liked it. And I started writing songs for my girlfriend at the time. But I was very shy. I would say, "Please
Mhm.
don't share with anyone. These are just for you." I think somewhere online there are still somewhere on Facebook there are still very old videos that my cousin recorded of me because she said, "You have a beautiful voice. We should share a video." But the video is from my shoulders down because I didn't want to show my face because I was very shy. And then it's been, a very organic process. Basically, the more I did it, the more I realized how much I loved it. And just as important, the more I did it, the more I realized that other people were appreciating it. And the more I got clear on what I wanted to talk about and how I wanted to use the music, the more people would be drawn to that. And it wasn't until 2014 when I moved to London in 2013. Well, actually, I went to London for the summer in 2013, thinking I'm just going to go for 3 months, see what happens. And then I lived in London for 3 years, and those 3 years changed my life. And it wasn't until 2014. I lived in London for a year. I was playing open mics. I was street performing. I was kind of trying out, like, let's see what happens if I really devote myself to this music thing. And then after doing about a year of that, I was like, this is it. I just want to do this. I don't want to do anything else. So between me
Wow.
starting and me saying I'm just gonna do music full time, there was about 6 years. And even then, the decision of fully committing and devoting myself to music didn't mean that I knew what I was doing. I was still just street performing in Camden Town, barely making any money. I was living in a commune, like I did the whole hippie alternative lifestyle kind of thing. And I've my life has changed a lot. I lived in 7 countries in the last 11 years, lived out of suitcases for as long as I can remember. So everything felt a little bit uncertain and it was changing and I didn't know where home was, blah, blah, blah. But music remained uh, the foundation, or at least the compass. And so, yeah, I had no idea. I actually graduated in political science from university.
Mhm.
I thought I was going to be a diplomat or I knew I wanted to have a positive impact of some kind, but I thought maybe through politics. So I graduated in political science, studied international law, da 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 da. And then by the time I graduated, I gave my parents my degree and I went to London with a guitar.
So
And
here you got it.
I got it. You wanted me to graduate. I did it. Put it
Yeah.
wherever you want. I'm going to London now.
Frame it, hang it.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that, honestly. So it's been a
Yeah.
surprise for me as well to see how life has unfolded since I fell in love with music and decided to devote myself to it.
So, just to understand, you were 19 when you first started playing guitar. When
Mhm.
did you move to London? How old were you then?
I moved to London in April of 2013. So I was 24.
So in between were like your years of studying, playing and practicing
I-
guitar. You really liked it. It felt good. People were resonating with it. So it's something
yeah.
grew aside of the path you were still following, like the
Yeah, yeah,
studies,
yeah.
so to speak.
I went to university for 4 years.
Mhm,
In the meantime, I was still learning how to play guitar and I
mhm,
was really obsessed. Like I would come home
mhm,
from university. I remember I wouldn't even take off my jacket and I would
mhm,
run to my bedroom and pick up the guitar and play.
mhm,
So yeah, started playing, not even started playing, like got my first guitar, which was an old guitar that I borrowed from a friend,
mhm,
May 2008, and then I moved to London, or I went to London April 2013 with
mhm,
the intention of I'll just be here for a little while, and
mhm,
then everything changed.
mhm. So the hypothesis I have is that it's easy to do these life experiments when you're young, when you're in your 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, whatever. You just, well, what the heck? I'm moving to London. I'm living somewhere with some guys, so people I don't know and whatever. And well, let's just be cool or whatever. It gets harder the older you get. So when you're in your 30s or 40s and you want to change something, you want to follow a dream. Um, it might not be so easy. Maybe it still is. And I want to talk to you about these insecurities because you had these insecurities throughout all your life. So how did you like mentally cope with this constant feeling of I don't know what happens next week, next month, next year,
Mm.
but you still kept on going.
Yeah. Well, first I want to address what you said that in your 30s is harder. I Maybe it is for some things, but I feel like it's like choosing to not follow the path that you think you're supposed to follow and fully dive into what your heart is telling you this is it is always hard. Either because you're 19 and you don't know anything and you don't I moved to London with 300 euros and so that was hard and
Yeah.
it's hard when you're 30 because maybe you're already established and but I feel like it's always hard and that's why um whenever someone asks me for advice, I do like songwriting workshops, and so I'm in touch with a lot of musicians and artists. And one of the main pieces of advice that I give is choose something that you really love, because
Mhm.
either way, you're gonna encounter challenges and obstacles and self doubt. Like either way, whether you do something that you absolutely love or you do something that you kind of hate but you have to do because it pays well or whatever it is, there's always obstacles, there's always challenges. So if anyone who's in their 30s or 40s or 50s right now feels like the life that they're living is not fully aligned with what their soul is saying,
Mhm.
great, acknowledge that it's possible. Either way, it's hard. The idea
Mhm.
of, oh, if I did this when I was 22, when you're 22 you
Mhm.
didn't know anything about anything,
Mhm.
or I didn't know anything when I was 19, or actually 23, 24 when I moved to London. Yes, I was free and I could, sleep on the floor in a commune, of course. But I know personally people who I deeply respect and admire who, in their mid 30s, did a complete career change. They spend the last 15 years building a business and
Mhm.
then they realize, I don't actually I don't want to do this. I don't love it. Or maybe I've done it and now I need something else. And it's very powerful to see someone who's established. Maybe there's, some good money coming in,
Yeah.
there's a brand, and then they say, no, this is not it. So
Yeah.
so it's always hard, but it's always worth it. That said, How did I cope with my own insecurities and
Yes.
my own uncertainty?
Mm-hmm.
A l- I mean,
It takes a mental strength kind of to like live with it. People, a lot of people I find out don't like the feeling and go back to a secure place.
even a secure place is an illusion, if I may. Like, yes, now I have an apartment, and but like I could walk out the street now and get hit by a truck, and tomorrow there could be a war, and the day after there could be like nobody knows what's happening anyway. And
Yes.
yes, there are some situations where you do have more certainty, and like I know I have key. For I remember for 2 years when I lived in London, I didn't have any keys to anything. I didn't have a car. The commune where I was living didn't have a door. It was like a gate that someone would open from the inside with a big chain. Um, but to answer your question, I think it's a mix. It was a mix of being very, very passionate about wanting to dive into
Yes.
this world. And that came from the awareness that what society was offering me or
Mm-hmm.
telling me this is the way didn't feel like the way for me. After I graduated, I was offered an internship at the university I graduated from. And for a year, I worked in the like student services office. And it was a fun job. I knew everybody. I was making good money. But I remember sitting in front of this computer, this big keyboard, under this artificial light, doing something that didn't ignite my fire, you know. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 23. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way this is it. There's no. So
Mm-hmm.
first, there's the acknowledgement of there are
Mm-hmm.
areas where I feel dissatisfied. There are areas where I feel like this is not it. This is not. I may not know what I want to do, but I know this is just not it. So, acknowledging and honoring the dissatisfaction, being lucky enough that I found something that I actually really loved, which was making
Yes.
music,
Yes.
and realizing I didn't suck at it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't good necessarily, but I didn't suck, which helps.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, there's an element was necessity. So I moved to London with 300 euros, didn't have a job for the first few months. And even when I got a job, I think it was part time for a little bit, and London is expensive. So I
Mm-hmm.
started street performing because I had to.
Okay.
For a
Mm-hmm.
long time, whatever money I had in my pocket or whatever money I would make street performing was all the money I had.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of days, especially in London, where you don't get a lot of like sunny days consistently unless you're lucky throughout the summer. There were days where I would wake up broke on someone's floor because I was sleeping, like I was couch surfing, and I had to go street performing or busking, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to. It was cold, it was raining, no one was
Mm-hmm.
around, but I had to. And thank God, because street performing was my school. I never studied singing, I never studied
Yes. Wow.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
songwriting, never studied guitar
Mm-hmm.
like with, officially or
Mm-hmm.
academically. So there was dissatisfaction, passion for
Mm-hmm.
something,
Mm-hmm.
necessity,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a pinch of madness, because you have to be a little bit mad to go after something. And madness is not a
Yes.
bad thing necessarily.
Yes.
Like that
Mm-hmm.
little thing of like this reality, it's not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to create another reality. I don't know how,
Yes.
but I'm going to try. I'm going
Yes.
to start.
And I want to find out and I want
And
to
I want to
find a
find
way.
out.
Mm-hmm.
And the famous, I think it's a Taoist saying, a journey of like 1,000 miles begins with one step.
Yes.
You know, so so I learned how to cope with the insecurity or the uncertainty because I realized a lot of people that may have that certainty, the house, the job, the marriage, are still miserable. So like having that doesn't, like, I feel like I feel like I was seeing through this illusion. If you get this and this and this, you're gonna be okay. And then I would meet people that had that and that and that, and they
And you
would
saw
look
they're
at
not okay.
me
Yeah,
being
yeah,
like, wow, I really envy your life. I was like, I have
yeah.
nothing. I have a guitar and I walk barefoot around Camden Town in London,
But you're free,
but
and
I'm
that's
free and I'm
yeah.
doing something that I love. And even if
Mm-hmm.
I'm broke and
Mm-hmm.
it's raining, I play for 2 hours and I connect
Mm-hmm.
with someone and I just wrote a song. Like
Mm-hmm.
I knew by how I felt when I was making music and
Mm-hmm.
how I felt when someone would give me the reflection of it could be someone walking by and they would stop and say, "That's what I needed to hear. I'm so glad I
Mm-hmm.
heard you." Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, there's a noise.
Yeah,
Let me
it
let me
doesn't
close.
matter. But you
Let
can
me
also,
close
yeah, just of
close the window.
course. Yeah, sure. And while you're closing the window, I also want to explain that I struggle a bit with my cough. So if you hear weird noises on my side, it's because I have a cough drop in my mouth, because
Okay.
otherwise I would like lose my voice. So, well, it's as good as it gets. We take it as it is.
Okay.
So I just want to repeat something, maybe in slightly different words, but what I'm hearing, that's I get even bumps when I hear that, is you said igniting the fire,
Mm,
and then actually honoring that fire. So finding a way, how can I honor that
mhm,
passion in me? And the title of this episode is Nourishing the Artist in Me. And that's actually what you were just
mm,
explaining in the past 2 3 minutes. It's like you found a way how to nourish the artist in you. You went out
mhm.
playing, yeah, it was raining, and yeah, there were a lot of other things, a lot of other feelings going on, a lot of other, the life situation, whatever, not being ideal or whatever, but you always found a way to nourish the artist in several different planes, even like literally like doing something, but also like honoring it inside. You treasured it. You felt there is an importance to that. I should not step over that to follow something else, or some idea of how life should be or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is something to it. I'm not stepping over that. I'm honoring it. I'm nourishing it. I'm letting
Yeah.
it grow and unfold, whatever it is. Did you have a vision back at that time? Was there a
No.
big picture?
No, I knew. I mean, it was just something that was inside of me that wasn't going away. It's always there. Like, this is not it. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. I always um I always knew that there was more. And like listening to stories of any successful person, whether an artist, Steve Jobs, an actor, anyone, the story is always a big chunk of the road was struggle and uncertainty. And I used to eat like canned beans in my cousin's garage. Like it's always the same story. No one decided I'm going to follow my passion and made it. So there
Mhm.
was something that was saying like this is the curriculum. This is what you
Mhm.
need to go through. This
Mhm.
is like you're doing it. If you're ever gonna
Mhm.
get somewhere, and I wasn't even necessarily thinking about getting somewhere, but if you want to get somewhere, it starts here. You show up and you street
Mhm.
perform 3, 4, 5 times a week. You try to play shows. Like I played when I first moved to London and I didn't know what I was doing. Everybody was more talented than me, or at least that was the story I was telling myself. Like, these are professionals. What am I doing? I played some shows. You get whatever you get. And I played shows where nobody was listening and nobody cared and people were
Mhm.
talking. And I like it sucked for
Mhm.
a long time. It sucked
Mhm.
for a long time. But I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And that's why the advice that I give now is pick something that you actually love, because the love that you feel for it will carry you through the
Yeah.
inevitable disappointment that you feel, the inevitable confusion, the inevitable, like, just know that you're going to go through all of that, but your
Yeah.
passion and your love will carry you through. And there was a part of me, and still today, there was a part of me that didn't want to accept that what someone else was telling me, this is how you do life, was the truth. You know, there's something felt really out of alignment. Like, I don't think any one of us is supposed to, you know, be born, go to school, go to work, get married, work more, go on holiday, and then die. You know, I think our society is very sick. Like, our society has forgotten what matters most, has forgotten why we're here, has forgotten what, like, and so it was an act of rebellion. Like, I don't even know what I'm walking towards, but I know what I'm walking away from. And that alone feels good. And if I need to be broke, and if I need to live in a commune and live in cars, and I'll do that. I'll do that because I trust that there's more.
Yes.
And then the beautiful thing that happens is that when you make a decision like that, and you devote yourself, and you also are, it's not just I'm gonna do it, me. Like, you also trust in something else that is unfolding. Like, the invisible is just as real as the visible, if not more. So whether it's your faith in God, the universe, karma, whatever it is, you start noticing how life starts aligning in ways that you would have never anticipated or predicted. You have a conversation with that person. Like, it's a co-creation. Everybody is amazing at manifesting. Everybody is an amazing manifester. But most of us are not aware that we're doing it, and we're creating or co-creating something that we don't want. So yes, I'm responsible for my part in the co-creation. So what can I do? Go street performing, like, learn how to do this, be better. Like, the grind, the human grind is real and necessary. And on top of that, you are co-creating with, call it whatever you want, but it's real. And so to see how things will start happening in a way that I felt supported. I'm still broke. I still have no idea where I'm going, but someone just opened the door and offered me this opportunity because I talked to that person, because I chose to leave that situation, and then you start tracing it back. And that's exciting when you feel like life is supporting you.
Yes.
And you're doing what you can, and you're not feeling like it's just you alone. And when I say it's not you alone, I'm not talking just about your faith in God or universe or source, but also your connection to your community. The thing that made a massive difference, like all the difference in the world in London, is that I found an amazing community. That, like, you cannot do it on your own. You cannot. Not me, not anybody. So finding the community was a massive game changer. I was working in a vegan cafe in Camden Town in London that had a little stage inside. It was called Inspire Lounge. It had a little stage, and I think Thursday and Sunday there would be live music, open mics. And so every week I was there playing, and every day I was there working and then playing, and everyone who worked in the cafe was an artist of some way. That's when I started feeling really supported in what I was doing, because people were like, yo, you good, you got this, keep singing, let's do a collaboration, come sing harmonies with me. Like, I was like, wow, first of all, I'm not as weird as I thought, because look at all these beautiful people who have the same fire.
Yeah, okay.
So consistency, the support of a community, and putting also my faith and my trust into something bigger that is directing my life. And not feeling, because otherwise you feel so tiny into this big world that makes no sense. So there's so many things that go into it, but I feel like everything, the first spark that gets everything going is what I mentioned in the beginning. Honor, if there's something inside of you that says, this is not it, I want to do something else, honor that. Listen to that, because it's not going away.
Serious. It's not going away.
Unless it's like the whim of a moment. I want to be a surfer now, like, you know, but it doesn't come from a, like, this is my soul's calling.
Yes.
That calling is not going anywhere. You will be 75 and with a lot of regret.
Yes.
Like, even if it doesn't work out, at least, you tried,
Yes.
And if you are 75 and you didn't make it, so to speak, at least you can look back and say, hey, I've tried. I gave it my best shot. Didn't land where I wanted to land, but then this happened and this happened.
And at least it was interesting.
At least it was interesting. At least you didn't do something that you didn't love for the sake of paying rent. And that's it. Like that's it. That's what makes everything go around. You have expenses, so you need a job. That's it. I remember I was in London shortly after I moved there, and I was working 2 jobs 7 days a week. And some days I would have a double shift. So like I would start at 9 in the morning and I would end at midnight. And one day I was just doing something at one of these jobs, and I was like, what am I doing? Like I moved to London to make music. I'm working 7 days a week to pay for a beautiful apartment where I spend almost no time because I'm always working to pay for the apartment, and I'm not making any music. That's when something shifted, and I realized I need to reevaluate my priorities. Wow. I don't care about the fancy apartment with the underfloor heating and the jacuzzi.
Yeah.
I care about knowing that at least some time of every day I'm devoting to something that nourishes me and makes me feel good. Yeah. So I quit one of the jobs. I left the apartment. That's when I moved to the commune.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
And I wasn't excited about living in the commune. Okay. I walked in, I had a friend who was living there, and I walked in the first day, and my first reaction was, are you insane? Are you actually insane? I can't. What? People live like this? No, that. But I didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was necessity. Like, okay, I'm going to make this work. And then realizing whatever I had left behind, the comfort of the apartment, the private bathroom, didn't matter as much as what I was finding. It's connections with people that were reflecting back to me. Like, I see what you're doing and you got it, So we think we need all these things. We think because we believe whoever told us, there's no malice. If you're born in a society that says this is how we do life and you never question it, then that's it. That's your reality. I understand it. But I think everybody has that something inside of them that says this is not it. But then the mind comes in. It's like, yeah, but how are you going to do it? You need to pay bills. Like the mind is trying to protect you, but it's not always what you need. You don't always need protection. Sometimes you need a kick in the butt and says, go out there and follow your dream. Go out there and start that business. Go out there and tell that person you love them. Like whatever it is, as they say, the mind is a terrible master, but a wonderful servant.
It is. And I want to stay there for a bit, because I think what the mind tells you or might tell you in such a moment is the sentence, I don't want to sacrifice blah, 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 blah. My blah, 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 blah. What you just said, my apartment, like the way I live or whatever. I don't want to sacrifice. I don't want to give up that level. You did actually. And now the question came up in me as a real deep question to contemplate on. What am I actually sacrificing? And could I like even imagine living without that for a bit? What would actually happen? Would it be that bad? Or could I go into that version of a life for a little bit? Because I guess eventually you ended up having a private bathroom again at some point of time.
Yeah, you don't know whether something is actually necessary or not until you go without it for a little while. And also, I'm giving my own story, my own experience, which is quite extreme. But, like I'm sure if someone wants to try something new, they don't have to move to a squat with a bunch of strangers. And this is an extreme artist. It's an extreme story, and it's also kind of the artist stereotype. But it doesn't have to be so intense. But you don't, even the stuff that you sacrifice or that you think you're going to sacrifice, it honestly, it's not as important as the things that then you find.
Yes.
And it is all mind, meaning the mind may have a good argument saying if you leave, for example, someone who's doing a job they don't love, there's something inside. They love to paint, they love to draw, for example, or any artistic inclination, and that's what they want to do. But how am I going to do that? Where do I start? Like the mind saying, if you leave this job, you're not going to be able to pay your bills, is not wrong. Like on this plane of reality, that is very true.
Yeah.
But what the mind cannot take into consideration and cannot include in the reasoning is the magic that starts happening when you align with what is true for you. Yeah. And when I say magic, I don't mean to sound woo-woo. For me, magic is everything that I can't explain rationally. The synchronicity, the opportunity, the whatever
people
it is.
You meet, whatever it is, doors that open.
My life has been like, me worrying today would be disrespectful to the universe, because I've been so supportive. Even when I thought, this is it, I'm not coming out of this one, this is bad.
Hold on, I want to I want to say something. Put down the weight of your worry, turn down the voice in your head. For when you thought that you could not carry on, you were carried instead.
Exactly.
Isn't that a beautiful poem?
Exactly. It's a good line. Whoever wrote that.
Whoever wrote that.
But yeah, that's it. That's it. So many times. And sometimes is you fall back onto your community. Sometimes it's just the grace of God. Sometimes it's your family, if you're lucky enough to have a family, or a parent. Like, I fucked up, I need to come home for like a week to get my shit together. Like that can happen. That can happen. But what the mind cannot do, and this is very important, like if you look outside and you can shut off your mind, your rational mind for 1 minute, you look outside, everything is a miracle. None of this makes any sense. Like a tree grows from a seed. If you had never seen a tree and someone showed you a seed, you and said, you know that, you'd be like, you need to be hospitalized. Yes. You know? Like, but we're so used to it. Like the fact that my heart is beating in my chest and I have no idea how or why. The fact that I'm aware, the fact that I'm talking to you, the fact that apparently we're floating in space and the space is infinite, but it's also getting larger. And it's like none of existence makes any sense rationally. And then we lock ourselves in these little boxes like, yeah, but how could that possibly happen? How is anything happening at all? So when I say magic, I mean, there's so much that we don't understand, that we don't know, that we can't comprehend. Like, so if you can tap into it a little bit, even to the point of sounding delusional. Delusional, what does it mean? I was having this conversation with a friend. So, I don't know if I should say this, but I will. When I signed the lease for this apartment, I knew rationally I couldn't afford it. I knew, like, the reality is I cannot afford this apartment. So the mind saying you should not sign that contract was doing the right thing. That's what the mind should do. But I took it as an experiment. You know, like if you ask for courage, life will give you the opportunity to be courageous. If you ask for abundance, and I want to level up, life can give you the opportunity to do that. So honestly, I took it as an experiment, and I hope my landlord never hears this podcast. But I moved in with the idea I have 1 month to figure out how to afford this apartment. Yes. Put myself in a position where I didn't have a choice. Like I either figure it out or I figure it out, or like they kick me out. And in order to do this, I have to put my faith and trust in something beyond what I can do from my phone or from my laptop or from my. So it was risky. But it put me in a position where, okay, how am I going to do this? It's not is it possible? It's
It's
like,
not
I'm in it.
questioning it, but it's asking the right question as
How am I
well.
going to do this?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, it doesn't have to be something. And by the way, I've been able to pay for this apartment since I moved in. But when I moved in, I didn't know. I didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it goes back to that uncertainty. Like, how are you going to do that? I don't know, but I think I can, and I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I want to go
yes.
back to the what you said about everyone has something, maybe he likes to paint or whatever. Because
Mm-hmm.
what resonates with me, also listening to your music or following your path, is I'm a person, I don't have a specific artistic talent. I'm not
Mm,
good at painting, music, blah blah blah, any of these, and yet still I did not consciously decide, but in hindsight, I decided to wanting to live a creative life.
mm,
And I was facing the challenge, well, what is creativity for me individually? What could that be if it's not,
mm-hmm.
painting, whatever, yeah, creating something. So creativity, to create. When do I feel creative? And for me, it's like when I have these kind of conversations, when every level of my being is alive, is feeling alive, is coming alive, is when I can coach, when I can work with people to support them to let their life unfold naturally or in that bigger sense as you were just explaining it. So this is for me life's creativity itself, and
Yeah.
nourishing that or supporting that, living such a life for myself, could be even more probably and more courageously. um, this feels like a creative life for me, even that I'm not an artist. So, and this is something that I also want to maybe evoke, yeah, in people listening to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now to this podcast episode, what is creative for them? It doesn't have to be creative in a narrow sense, but what is
Totally.
like what feels creative? Creative is also like feeling alive. I would say that's very
Yeah.
close together. Not being
Yeah.
bored of their own life, having an
Yeah.
interesting life, or playful maybe. Playful is also an important part of creativity, I would
Definitely.
say.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can, yeah,
And
go
yeah,
from there.
so I spoke of like artistic inclinations because that's what I know being a musician. But it could be anything. Maybe someone wants to make bread or build
Mm-hmm.
bridges, or I don't know. It could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. This is how I've learned how to distinguish between the voice of the mind and the other voice. The
Mm-hmm.
other voice being, could be your heart, could be your whatever it is that's not the
Mm-hmm.
mind. In my experience, or maybe it's your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
The intuition, the heart, the soul calling, whatever you want to say it, doesn't give you reasons or explanations. It just says this, do that, do that. The mind will give you a million reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You should do this because if you don't, da, 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
So I know when I just feel this thing that says go there,
Mm-hmm.
talk to the person, move to Ibiza, keep playing. Like I know I should listen to that because it's this feeling in my being that says you need to do this, and you need to be doing this. So I don't even need to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mind has a list.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't know if that's helpful, but I was also having this conversation
Mm-hmm.
with someone else. How can you tell when it's this or that?
Mm-hmm.
The mind will like try to convince you.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is just looking at you, being like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you feel afraid. I understand. You still need to
Mm-hmm.
do it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have a plan. Great, we'll figure it out. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, when it's just that boom, that's
Mm-hmm.
what you need to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can tell the mind, like, I understand what you're doing. It's
Mm-hmm.
good that you're around because I'm gonna need you.
Mm-hmm.
but I don't need you to protect me, and I don't need you to tell me all the reasons why this is not going to work, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what's going to happen once I take that first step.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's the conscious co-creation of anything can happen, anything is possible,
Mm-hmm.
everything is magic and a miracle. And
Mm-hmm.
how can I contribute to this vision? What
Mm-hmm.
can I do today, tomorrow? How
Mm-hmm.
can I make this
Yes.
happen? And
Mm-hmm.
that gets your creativity going. But yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It doesn't have to be dancing or painting or singing.
Yeah.
It could be maybe someone wants to start a business where they make purses out of newspapers. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Do that.
whatever. Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
that.
Whatever. Yeah. There's another concept I carry around for a while, but now you have to think, I think, help me with an English word. How do you call the piano? Um,
The keys,
yeah, the keys. How would you call it? In German, I would say Klaviatur.
like the actual things that you push on the piano,
Yes.
those are called keys, I
The
think.
keys. Okay, the keys. So, and the whole thing, then you would call keyboard in English probably or whatever, but it
A
sounds a bit
keyboard or a piano or
or whatever. I'm saying my concept, and I think
okay, yeah, let's
you'll
see.
get it because it has obviously it has different notes, different tones, like very
Hmm.
deep, dark ones, and
The
very
low and the highs, yeah.
the lows and highs, whatever. Yeah. And for me, it's like we have everything in ourselves. You could also compare it to like a bunch of flowers or whatever that are very different. And there's a lot of different parts within us. And how can we, when we nourish the artist in us or the creative life we want to
Mm,
live, how can we also nourish these different parts within us? And when I
mm,
look at you, or at least what you show about yourself, I would see at least two big parts, and you can tell me if I'm
hmm,
right or wrong or whatever. And the one is that rebel in you, the artivist, you know that's
hmm,
edgy and that you can either agree or disagree with.
hmm,
And another part is that being able to finding words for a universal truth that you can only say yes to. It's not possible to say no to a line of stay open to life or bless this mess or whatever.
mm,
But it's possible to say no to a line of what you wrote in your COVID times. Yeah, so
mm.
these are different parts within you, and probably they're
Yeah,
all alive. So I wanna, yeah, maybe you can dive into that. Do you also feel that as different angles of your creativity?
totally,
Yeah, and
totally.
how did it shift somehow, or is it just next to each other, or?
Um, I think these are parts that have always been there,
Mm-hmm.
but that I've only it took me a while to acknowledge and um be okay with. Meaning
Mm-hmm.
when I started making music, because I didn't have any experience when I moved to London except for, you know, a couple of shows in Italy and some street performing, I would look at someone who was being very successful, even within my community, and be like, okay, I need to do more of that because that
Mm-hmm.
works.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would do a little bit of that, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't my own
Mm-hmm.
honest, authentic expression. So even if it did work, it didn't feel within myself. I was like, yeah, this is
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it took me some time. I think the first time that I really allowed myself to be unapologetically myself and say the things that I wanted to say without holding back was the COVID songs.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 years ago.
And your Instagram blew up over these
And my
sharings.
Instagram blew up and I freaked out because I was saying
Mm.
the most controversial thing you could possibly say and it was
Yeah.
going viral.
Mm.
But the COVID experience, basically me saying, hey, this is what I feel. And it doesn't matter if nobody agrees.
Yeah.
I'm angry, I'm confused, I'm concerned, and here's
Yeah.
a ridiculous song that makes fun of this insanity.
Yeah.
Uh, First, I lost some followers, I lost some friends,
Mm.
But then I saw that there were thousands of people that would find my page and stick around and say, I feel the way you feel. I'm so glad you're singing about this because I don't feel crazy anymore. So that's when I realized there will always be someone who disagrees. There will always be someone who agrees, unless somehow I manage to express a universal truth that everybody agrees with. But that is rare, and that's not why I do what I do. Like if it happens, great. But that's when I realized the importance of being authentic, because that's how your people will find you. You know? And to this day, funny enough, most of the people who recognize me, maybe come to a show, they originally found me because of the COVID songs or because of the Kundalini song, which is it's a song where for those who are not familiar, I make fun of spiritual materialism and is quite polarizing. Those were the two things that help people find me. And then through those, people found also the rest of the music. And then they stayed for the rest of the music. But I spent a lot of time, especially artistically, kind of like censoring myself. Don't say that. Oh, you shouldn't say that. Don't go there. Especially I was living in England, and you know, I know society. This is a stereotype, but it's a bit square. Like this is what we say. We're politically correct. We don't, you know, even within my friends, I would say something and people would look at me like, you can't say that. I'm like, wow, I just did. And I believe that. I'm sorry. But yeah, the moment I started saying, hey, this is how I feel. And of course, packaging it with a song and some funny lines helps. So I also understood the importance of
in it, finding the lightness,
lightheartedness, sarcasm, irony. So there's a way also to delay. If you just stand on the side of the road with a megaphone, just saying how you feel about everything, it might not land with people. So, you know, but yeah, the idea of I'm okay. I'm a work in progress. I don't know anything about anything. Sometimes I will say the wrong thing. Sometimes I will fuck up. And I don't want to censor myself or not saying how I feel about certain things out of fear. You know, I take for granted some people will agree and some people will disagree. Whatever you do.
And what's the bridge to this like period of time where you decided to, I'm saying what I'm saying, to the current album Stay Open to Life? Like how did this unfold? It's, I don't know how many songs are on it, 12, 10, whatever.
12 songs.
Yeah, 12 songs. Like very universally spoken, which for me is an artistry in itself, to find universal words that align with everyone, no matter which religion or belief system or country or culture or whatever they grew up. It's just it resonates on a level that's like beyond the thinking plane, and that's so special nowadays in these days. So how did you do that?
I think it all starts with being honest with myself. Meaning most of the songs on the album, especially on the album, are songs that I wrote for myself. So I didn't necessarily sit and think, I'm going to write something really inspiring for someone else.
For the world.
Stay Open to Life came from a chapter of my life where I was super lost and I was very worried and I felt like my life was crumbling. And I think I shared the story in Jacob's podcast.
Yeah, someone shouted this line actually after you.
Someone came up to me in Puerto Viejo in Costa Rica in the middle of the road, a stranger, homeless man who I'd never seen before, out of nowhere, just came up to me, put his face close to my face, and said, "Stay open to life," and then left. Which
Wow.
honestly felt like an angel or something. It was so random. And that has such a massive
Wow.
impact. And the more I set with this idea of just stay open to life, the more life, everything started falling into place.
Wow.
And even though it wasn't
Open
my
up.
plan at all, I ended up living in Costa Rica for a
Yeah.
year. It's a beautiful story.
Yes.
But it started with most of the songs start from me going through some intense chapters of this human experience
Mm-hmm.
and using songwriting as like an alchemical process. uh and songwriting,
As a chemical process.
alchemical,
Alchemical, okay.
alchemical.
Okay,
So you take
alchemical process, like a transformation
like a
within.
transformation, like I take something heavy or sad
Yeah,
or
or dark.
heartbreaking, and
Yeah.
through the alchemy of songwriting it
Ah,
becomes the song
yeah,
Stay Open to Life, which then
yeah,
someone else can listen to and be inspired by.
yeah.
So it started with just honesty. Like, I don't feel good. Like, on the album, there's a song called This Too Shall Pass. This Too Shall
Yes.
Pass, I wrote the day that me and an ex-partner broke up. And it was a very
Mm-hmm.
painful breakup. And
Yeah.
that day, all I could do was sit on the floor and just sing This Too Shall Pass.
Yeah.
And I was really sad. And then
Feeling
it
the
becomes this
pain.
beautiful song.
Yeah.
So the same honesty,
Mm.
the same outward honesty
Yeah.
that created the COVID songs
Mm-hmm.
is the inward honesty that checks in with myself and says, "Yo, how are you feeling? Not good. Okay, let's
Mm-hmm.
sit with it and let's write about it." And the reason it resonates is because we're all going through the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
we're
That's pretty
all
universal too.
It's pretty
Yeah.
universal. We're all afraid. We're all confused. We're all hurt. We're all a little bit messed up. Like, and it's okay. So the more honest I can be with myself about what I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling, and the more someone else will resonate with that because they're going through the same thing or something very similar, or they
Yes.
did go through so. So yeah, the offering that I give through the music starts with just a very personal and intimate conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that is the spiritual community is lost, and I should probably make fun of it. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
is COVID is insane, like the insanity of the
Mm-hmm.
lockdowns, and sometimes is the most tendered, vulnerable, whatever I'm going through that then became the album Stay Open to Life. And the next
Mm-hmm.
one album is probably going to be a little bit different. And,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
allowing myself to wear different hats
Yes.
and to acknowledge sometimes I want to sing a cheesy love song, and sometimes I want
Yes.
to set the stage on fire and be an artist, and sometimes I want to be
Yeah.
really cheeky and funny, and sometimes it's a struggle because all you hear about social media and being successful is find your niche, find your
Yeah.
niche. I'm like, I don't know what my niche is.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe my niche is that I don't have a niche. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it took me some time to be okay as the work in progress that I
Mm-hmm.
am
Yes.
with the different parts of myself.
Yes.
And it works because I just had a really funny thought, which probably shouldn't share, but in my understanding, Hinduism,
Mm-hmm.
and if I'm wrong, please someone let me know. But in my understanding, Hinduism, although it has, I don't know, thousands of millions of gods, is actually a monotheistic religion. The idea is there's one God, and it manifests into the
Yeah.
Ganesha, the Hanuman, the all these things. And one of the reasons is that different people will feel drawn to a different
Yes.
energy. In a way, it's very similar. The place that all this stuff comes from is the same, but then some people like the cheekiness, and so I
Yes.
give them some of that, and some
People like the depth, and then there is
people
some
like the depth, and they want
yeah.
to.
Mm.
And I played a show
Mm.
on Saturday, And at
Mm-hmm.
the end, it was very beautiful because a few people came up to me and said, I love I forget the word that they say, but something like the variety,
Yeah.
like you never
Yeah.
know what the next thing is going to be. And I love
Yeah.
that I'm able to offer that by not pushing away any part of myself
Yeah.
and saying, okay, there's a place for you as well. From the
Yeah.
funny spiritual song to the heartbreaking love song to
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And for me, maybe to also come to a closing, because I didn't ask the 10 questions that are still on my list, but I won't, because I want to keep it a little bit also condensed. But um, to me, a life worth living is a life of variety,
yeah,
actually, where I can like allow my variety, my individuality to be.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Variety
this,
is definitely it's definitely an element of it. I think
mhm,
it's an honest life,
yeah.
And if through the honesty you also have variety, great. But
Yeah.
also some people like their routine and they want to do the same thing every day and
True.
earlier I was thinking maybe someone's dream is to move to the countryside and just have a little garden and not talk to
Yes.
anyone.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Like do that. Doesn't have to be artistic in the or necessarily even creative. I dream of not talking to any other human being
Yeah.
and just grow cabbage for the rest of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
You should 100% do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So an
But I'm
honest,
sure that the person, well, I can imagine a person would find creativity, their own version of creativity. That's
yeah,
why, yeah, it's like
sure.
that's yeah,
How
so
you
many
arrange your
versions of
little,
it.
how you arrange your garden, how you cook your cabbage, how you,
How the
you're
watching the cabbage grow is the most
totally,
creative process of life itself, as you said before, with
yeah,
the little seed in the tree. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I think the first step is honesty. Like, how do you
Hmm.
feel? What do you want? Where do you want to
Hmm.
go? How do you want
Hmm.
others to feel? Like asking, there's a book that I often recommend called Find Your Why by Simon Sinek.
Yeah. Hmm.
That was a good book that I read during the lockdown because it
Yeah.
asks questions that help you get clarity on your why. Like
Yeah.
why any of
Yeah.
this? Why do I wake up in the morning? Why
Yeah.
do I? And the why is so important because we're so stuck on the how or
Yeah.
the what that we often
Yeah.
overlook the why. Whereas the why is the motor that drives the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because you can have a why and not have a what or a
Yeah. Or
how, but you can
how
still move
you can
forward. But
still
if you have a
start.
how and you don't have a what or a why,
It's
you're not
yeah,
going any.
it's without orientation. Yeah, and what I like about that book, that it helps you asking the right questions,
Yeah,
um, or the better ones. Let's put it
yeah,
like that. And but yet, as you said about yourself several times, I guess that you're a work in progress. And allowing yourself to be a work of progress, because there are so many people. This is also become, a dogma about, oh, I can't find my why, or I need my why, or whatever. No, like I had a why and I lost it and I
yeah,
struggled with losing it. And now
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
still the questions are there, but I'm not stuck to having to find an answer to that. I'm fine with just letting the question unfold. Yeah, this is more maybe
Totally.
again the trust and the faith in that higher, or in the magic, as you put it before. Yeah, I
Yeah.
also like that word. Yeah.
And another way to absolutely. And I
Hmm.
I found a lot of freedom within myself when I realized that I'd rather have good questions than good answers.
Yeah.
Because I realized there are some answers that I will never get. If
Yes.
if we're talking about the bigger
Yes.
the bigger picture, like what's going on, and
Yeah.
you might never get answers, but having a good question is a really good place to start.
Hmm.
And when I talk of the magic, I really want this to land in case someone is maybe struggling with the terminology. Um, because you mentioned this, we talk about the seed and the tree.
Hmm.
Um, oh man, I just had a really good thought. The magic. What did I want to say about the magic and why?
If it comes, then please interrupt me. Other than that, I would just stop the way we started, just somewhere.
Sure.
And what I want to do is sharing a bold idea I have at the end now.
Mm.
What's part of your work is playing shows. You
Yes.
travel around, you're playing shows in beautiful places, in beautiful countries. You've never played a show in Austria, hmm?
No.
Yeah. So anyone who listens to that, who is open to host a concert or a show,
Mm.
so that we can bring Roman to Austria, I think that would be some great thing. I've reached out to some contacts already, but it didn't open up by now. But well, we'll just keep on going, I would say, finding the right place and the right time. And I'm having a little wedding party at the 21st of June. I'm not saying where because then people maybe start
I'll
showing
just rock
up.
up. Yeah.
Well, be there at this time, this day. No. And if we could bring you to Austria around that date, that would be something really, really, really great for me. So if there is anyone who's interested in hosting a concert, who's interested in maybe even sponsoring a Roman coming over, and we're developing something together, and also so that you can come and play at my little wedding ceremony, because I'm really dreaming of the song As the Universe Whispers.
That's a good one.
It's
Yeah, I'm
so
very,
beautiful.
very available for that. Let's make it happen. If someone wants to host or someone has contacts to venues or people that organize shows, like yeah, let's
Yes, write me, write Roman directly on
yeah,
Instagram.
get in
Yes,
touch. And I also remember what I was about to say. Maybe we can end with
yes.
that one.
Maybe you can end with that.
Um, when I speak of the magic, I said I'm all the things that we don't understand rationally that we cannot explain. One of them, and I mentioned nature, seed and the tree. Da, da, da. We are nature. We human beings are nature. We have this idea that there's nature and then there's us. Like I was born and raised in the city, and I remember like, oh, we're gonna go to nature now. Well, let's go to the park and let's be in nature. So it was always this thing separate from us. And realizing that everything in nature, whether it's a tree growing, the clouds, like there's something, and I call it the magic, you can call it whatever you want, that is making all of this happen, that is growing the tree and is flowing the rivers and is blowing the breeze, and you can see it as you can take it for whatever you want it to be, but there's something happening. So when I realize I am just as I'm nature just as much as a little flower that's just
Yes,
growing and it's getting what it needs. And
yes,
so the more I can really feel that and embody that and have trust that as nature, there's something that is also growing me or pushing me in the direction that I'm
yes,
supposed to go to, or that
yeah,
because one of the biggest mistakes we did was to cut ourselves from nature and think that
yes,
we are the separate being that needs to make everything happen and
yeah,
I'm in control. I'm not in control.
yeah,
I mean, I'm in control. The universe gives me the cards and then I'm in control of how I play them. But so that's
mm,
something that really helped me was
mm-hmm,
understanding, remembering, realizing I am nature and
mm-hmm,
nature's fine. Nature's always fine.
mm-hmm,
So maybe,
mm-hmm,
and I got to this a lot later in life,
mm-hmm,
but maybe sometimes what I need to do is less,
yeah,
you know, and just
yeah,
like still do something. Don't sit around waiting for the miracles to just fall on your lap. But I am nature. And as
yes,
nature, if there's something that's again growing the little flower and making sure that the little bee has the thing, like there's this beautiful dance, this beautiful
yes,
orchestration that I'm also a part of. So how can I tap back into that
yeah.
and not just spend my days worrying or
Yeah.
stressing and just
I love ending on that. That growing and growth is far more than just a body growing tall until it has reached its height.
Yes.
It's something that is the unknown. It has so many words and yet none at the same time. And it's just, as you said,
Yeah.
Dear Roman, thank you so much for this conversation. It was truly inspiring for me. I had the same feeling I often have when I get in touch with you one way through your music, through what you share. Thank you very much for everything you're doing. And I hear you keep on doing it, which makes me very happy too. I'm curious to whatever might unfold and to ever things that come up that you can share and I can set myself into relation with. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me and for the good questions. And I hope this finds the people who might benefit from hearing this. And yeah, let's see if we can make something happen for Austria for June.
Yes.
And
June and in general, yes.
Or in general, yeah. I'm already gonna be traveling around Europe if anybody wants to check out the upcoming dates.
Yes,
A couple things in Ibiza, Sweden, Portugal, Switzerland, Germany, and there's more being added. And yeah, check out the album Stay Open to Life, because I have a feeling it will make your day a little bit better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ja, das war das Soulsurfing Podcast, Season 1, Episode 3. Monika Kletzmayr featuring Roaman am Super Me Sunday auf Audio CD.at.